Okay, so we took a little break. I have this cup of coffee from Kerber's. I don't know if you've ever been there, but it's on Long Island. You should check it out. They have this great mug. So let's look at this idea now, right? Writing process as rhetorical design. So what is it that I want you to do next? That's really what you're going to be getting from this video. And the learning goals here have to do with, part of our learning outcomes. So in case you're wondering, let me just pull up the learning outcomes. These are the ones that are sort of like specific details and facts pertaining to audience and genre, citations and documentation, interpretation and explanation of ideas, connections with examples and evidence. So if you think about the last video that we watched, and we go to this part of the writing process, the rhetorical process, which is really about knowing your audience, right? What Aristotle said, the aim, the purpose. And then this is going to be a lot about how to design it so that you can technically be more evaluative in your thinking and more kind of diverse in your approach, right? So we think about what can we do to put in this information that is going to be the pathos, like the root of the word pathological, right? To get your audience to feel something when they read it. The ethical argument, right? Kind of like, how is society going to benefit from this? What's your stance? And then your logic, like what needs to be included, right? And so this was the question that I put to you. And if you came up with the answer, you know that the acronym was tear it up. Now, you might assume that you know what some of these things are. So they're all the things that need to go into the paper. So if you look at the first one and I say, what do you think the T is? What do you think you need to have in every single paper? Students know this, right? They know they need to have a thesis. But actually, in my thing here, the thesis is down here. So here's a whole bunch of stuff that I'm going to ask you to consider before you get to the introduction and the thesis. So things to remember, right? Tear it up. The tear, T-E-A-R, stands for these four things: the title, the epigraph, the argument, and rhetorical design. So if we start with just the first one, let's say we just look at that first one. Can I make this smaller now? Doesn't seem like it. Okay, well, we'll just look at it this way. If we just look at the T, a title. So your paper has to have a title. And your title needs to be not what the assignment is, right? So not revision for paper one. You have to actually give your paper a title. So let's say if I think about what Christina wrote about, maybe the title will be something like why blue-collar workers should get an education. Maybe when I think about what Matthew had to say, it would be why, let's not say why again. Let's say Burger King employees can do better in life, right? So what's implicit in that is that you think that arguing that an education is a good thing. I'm assuming that since you're in college, that you think that getting a college education is a good thing. So your title should reflect that somehow. So notice that it should be original, and it should point the reader towards the topic, and it should be creative. So if I say something like, how people become vegan to save the world, you know the paper is going to be about that. So it's not essay 2, it's the title. Then here's a trick that is just mine. This is mine. I think that it's very good to start with an opening quotation. So you take a quote from any source. And this is a classical thing, to like start an argument with a quote from somewhere else. It can be from anywhere. You can take it from the assignments that your professor gives you, or you can just, your favorite rapper, whomever. It lends credibility, makes you sound like you're professional. Then we need to have an argument in every paper. So like I said in the last video, students don't realize that what they're doing is arguing. In this paper that you're writing, the work paper, you are taking a stand to say, I think that education in 2023 goes this way, that people should get an education, or that it shouldn't be so expensive, or something, right? You're going to argue something. You are the authority in your argument. I am not. I am just the guide. So your paper is yours. So if you don't know what you're trying to say, then that's a problem, right? And then rhetorical design. Now, rhetorical design means you have a purpose in mind and an aim in mind, and you've given some thought to how you're going to organize and focus. So a lot of times students know to make an outline, to have a beginning, to have a middle, to have an end. So you want to do all of that. You want to kind of set yourself up before you actually go into the paper. Now we go into the writing of the paper, right? You want to have an introduction, and you also want to have a summary. And you want to consider your audience and your purpose and your research. Imagine you're introducing a friend. So explain your terms and slow down. So the start of your paper shouldn't be, Mike Rose said this and Gerald Graff said this. The start of your paper should be, my father owns his own business and he's a really smart guy. And I don't think that him not having an education makes him any less smart than a doctor. However, the research shows this. Mike Rose says this, Gerald Graff says this. And I think the following. Right? So your introduction is going to just take us down that road. Don't just jump right in. Right? You can also react to your epigraph. So if you put an epigraph up there that says something like, the best kinds of education is the education that's inspiring, then you're going to want to start your paper by saying, I'm inspired to get my education. Mike Rose and Gerald Graff say this, and I think the following. So that's where you have your thesis, right? You take a position, and if ever you had a sentence that doesn't have a grammatical error or a spelling mistake, it's your thesis. So I am going to look at your thesis, and it has to make sense, and it has to not have any problems, right? So let's go back now, right? So we have tear it up. So we did the tear. We did the it. The it is introduction and thesis. And then the up is understanding. And look at what it says here, right? If you don't understand what you're trying to say, it's likely your audience is confused. So slow down. Explain your ideas. Include more information than you might think of your own writing. Not more quotes from Graff. Not more quotes from Rose. You have to write the paper. So here's where students are just so used to copying and pasting from Google. We're just not going to do that, right? Now you have to explain it. And then it does ask you for proof. Now, how many proofs do you have in a short paper, college level paper, 3 to 5 pages, maybe 3 quotes, maximum 5, maximum, like over the top is 5. 1 piece of text from outside in a body paragraph, and then you explain it. You guys are so used to just throwing all this stuff. That's not what we want you to do. We want you to be clear, to understand what you're saying, and to use what you read to make your point. So I hope that's helpful. So we're going to tear it up, right? So you have the title, the epigraph, the argument, the rhetorical design. You have an introduction. You have a thesis, right? Your paper is clear, simply stated, and has proof. And then, I'm not even grading for the proof thing, but try to use the MLA. See if you can set up the paper according to the MLA. I will not take off any points. I will just mention that it's not there. Right now, I'm only grading on clarity, also called coherence, unity, and your sentence skills, right? So if I can't understand you, that's where we have a problem. All right, good luck with everything.